If we receive $7.5 million for going along with the COVID protocols, how are we running a deficit? I just like to say Easter's coming up, and God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son for us. He remained on a cross on Good Friday from 12 to 3 p.m. for our sins. He was a man.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I wish everyone a happy Easter.
Mr. Wade and school board members, I would like to comment on the proposed IDR, the Individualized Daily Reading List of books, being considered by Mentor schools for grades K through 5th grade, which are being provided by the company Collaborative Classroom. I personally went through each bin, each grade, and each book displayed at the Paradigm Center. What I found about this sample of books was very concerning. The vast majority of these books celebrate everything about minorities: African American, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, Native Alaskan peoples, and numerous countries around the world. I'm not saying that we don't need a diverse selection of reading materials, but the list lacks balance of any books that reflect the culture as a whole. I'm not opposed to diverse teachings about our world or about our culture, but this list of books gives a very one-sided view of our culture. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, less than half of the U.S. population is comprised of minorities. Well, about 60% is made up of Caucasians. This list of books is glaringly absent of any Caucasian culture, families, situations, or values. It's as if the culture doesn't even exist, or they have not made any positive contributions to this society. Mentor students will get a very distorted view of our nation by reading only the books on this list. The director of Collaborative Classroom, Jenny McDonald, has this to say about philosophy towards white people. The greatest problem is not that flat-out white racists, but rather with the larger number of Americans who believe intellectually in racial equality, but are quite oblivious to injustice around them. No wonder this company's books don't include any that portray Caucasians, with a few exceptions. She believes we don't understand, comprehend, or care about what we see around us regarding race issues. Mentor schools are always spouting about diversity. Where is the diversity in these books? Where are the books that may represent a majority view or idea? In all fairness, I did find a book on Helen Keller, Abraham Lincoln, John Glenn, and Amelia Earhart. Other than these, of the several hundred books I viewed, there are virtually none representing mainstream cultures or views. I suggest the Mentor School Board reject this company's current K-5 reading list, unless they can provide a more balanced list of books. However, I don't think this company would be able to do this. I respectfully submit that it may be time to search for a different company that can provide a much more inclusive book list, one that does not have an agenda. Thank you for listening.
My understanding is it's not a replacement, it's a supplement.
That's not what we've been told. We were told that these books would replace the current list because these books have been in the classroom for such a long time, they needed to be replaced. Am I incorrect or not?
My understanding is it's a supplement.
That's not my understanding. So there's a miscommunication somewhere.
We're around police. It's going to take somebody else special. So I'm sorry that you guys have been put into this position. As a parent of a junior high school student, a guy that's raised 6 kids and all those kids, no kid should be dealing with some of the stuff that we're putting in the libraries of our schools and the classrooms of our schools. We've got to make better decisions on this stuff. And I want to encourage you, if stay in the lane is the right term, you were hired to navigate the education of our children, not the social development of our children. All right? I parent my daughter, and I've raised my daughter to be a good kid, to try to be. Let me take care of teaching her what's right and wrong, and how to handle things that she doesn't agree with. You guys, please take care of teaching my kid how to read, write, spell, and add. We'll take care of the rest. That's your job if we can make it simple. If there's anything we can do to help, we're here. But I just have to ask in closing, why are some groups being paid attention to because it's a political agenda, and other groups of parents being ignored and having stuff just crammed and forced on children that, one, don't know how to handle it, don't know what to deal with. We should not be having inclusive groups on anybody K through 5th grade. They don't understand it. Sorry, that's got to stop as soon as possible. Praying for you guys, hoping that we make right decisions, but know this, God's not mocked. What a man sows, he will reap. Are you prepared to reap what you're sowing?
Thank you.
Mr. O'Brien using the term mainstream, what he meant, or at least what I think he meant, was boys that identify as girls when they're 6 years old isn't mainstream, and to purchase a good load of new books that where 95% of these books are not mainstream, and they talk about transgenderism or have plots and stories revolving around transgenderism, little boys and girls don't understand what sexuality even is at that age. All they understand is biology. And these books, they're just inappropriate for young children. I don't think it's, if you believe that there's all kinds of sexes, well then that's your religion, and you're bringing your religion into the public school system. I think we all want diversity, and I think Menor School Systems has done a great job with that. I've never experienced or heard of racism in the Menor schools. I mean, the facilities here are phenomenal. The athletics, so it makes me question when someone says they're bullied or they find the environment unsafe. It's just very questionable, because I don't see how teachers and staff would allow something like that to go on. So I hope these incidents are really recorded. Like, what actually are these children, I don't want you to feel unsafe. So what exactly is it that constitutes bullying and feeling unsafe? And then the $6 million, how are we still running a deficit if we receive $6 million? Okay.
Because our expenses are $116 million, and we bring in $105 million in revenue.
So are we running, our expenses, have they increased by $6 million in the last year? I mean, that's a very large amount of money, $6 million. You could build every building here.
I would be happy to speak to you if you'd like to call my office and have a
Okay, maybe I'll
discussion.
look into it more on my own, but it just doesn't seem You know, it just doesn't seem to add up for some reason. Okay.
But if you
thank
look on my website, a section of the website, the appropriations and the 5-year forecast explain that, and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Okay, thank you.
And I am very disappointed that the school board has been making decisions to score political points and further divide the parents and students. Our education system should be used to educate kids on the basics: reading, writing, math, science, geography, history, and nothing else. How dare you teach our children that their race, religion, sex, or political affiliation predetermines their potential? When I was growing up, I was taught that I could be whatever I worked hard to be, and that is not what is being taught our children now. Diversity and inclusion should not teach that one race, sex, or religion is over another, but that is what that teaches. Both of these parent groups just want what is best for our children, and no bullying. And unfortunately, and your agenda should unite us and not divide us.
Thank you.
Patience in listening to us. When I was over at the Paradigm Center reviewing the books for the classroom, I also spoke with your curriculum director, Barb Honest. We spoke for at least a half an hour, and I expressed my concerns about these books to her. She never once said, these books are a supplement. She never once told me that. She had every opportunity to tell me that they were a supplement when I was railing against how one-sided these books are. And yet, she never mentioned it. She never mentioned it. So there is either some lying going on or some miscommunication and we need to find out for sure, because if you're not sure that these are books that are going to replace the current books in the classroom, we need to know that. Thank you.
I'm Stephanie Van Record in Menor, and I have a third grader at Bellflower. And my question is about what she just stated about that these books are self-selected. And the reason I have some concerns, I stayed up way too late last night going through all of the about 250 books for the 4th grade, since that's what my daughter will be going into. And many of the books in the reviews, they stated that they should be read with an adult because the topics were too heavy or too just kind of like there was references to violence and things like that, and the concern came up with a lot of these books that they should be more guided reading, not independent reading. So I just want to understand if these are for independent reading, what is the process going to be to, I appreciate the transparency that you put all these books out there. I really, really appreciate that we were able to view these in advance, because then we're prepared if our kids, you know, read something and they come home with questions. So I really appreciate that. But I just want to understand, is this just completely, you know, the kid has 15 minutes of free time, so they go grab whatever book they want to read. And I'm concerned because some of the titles that would be for the 4th grade, there's one called A Song for Cambodia, and it's the story of how it mentions how soldiers came and brutally separated the family. Arn would never see his mother again after the family was separated to go to work camps. The children were starving and caught bugs to eat. This would traumatize my 9-year-old daughter. Her favorite things in the world are rainbows and unicorns still. And I'm very concerned with some of these topics that, as the previous speaker spoke, these are things that adults believe children need to be exposed to and need to start to understand about the world. But the more I went through these books, it's a very heavy collection of books, and there's no question that it's left-leaning. So my concern is, you know, is there going to be any further vetting of some of these titles? That one called The Librarian of Basra, a review mentioned that there are drawings of planes bombing a school, men with rifles, fires, talk of death and killings, and it portrays the American military as evil. Another book called Front Desk is laced with profanity, described as anti-white, America-hating, and anti-cop. So, in closing, since this collection is not a very balanced assortment, is there a process for donating books to the schools? Because I don't believe in banning books. I believe that children should be exposed to all of these things. But can we contribute some books that maybe round out the collection, such as maybe the Tuttle Twins as an excellent series of books, or the Rush Revere series on American history. So I guess that would be my direct question, is who would I speak to about donating books?
You could email me if you would be willing, and we can continue the conversation.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Should say something. I feel that I and maybe some others were just verbally assaulted by the black gentleman. Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. No one here is racist. I went to Richmond Heights High School and I played basketball. My mother did not have a driver's license to drive me home. It was a black girl and her mother that drove me home from basketball practice. If somebody came in and said there's racism, when I was a senior or a junior at Richmond Heights, I would say you have an agenda. And I think it's an insult to call white people racist. Okay, no one here is racist. Racists don't elect a black president. 56% of white voters voted for former President Barack Obama. This country isn't racist. I worked at Bob Evans with black waitresses. We didn't have an issue. Why are you all making an issue when there is not one? If you're racist and you've been racist your whole life, then take some classes on diversity, but don't force it on us. And what you believe is your religion.
Excuse me, remember.
And what I believe is my religion.
Address the board.
Okay, and your religion, you're bringing it into the public school system. If you want to be against the natural laws of nature, that's your religion. If you want to deny that the Son of God died on the cross, that's fine, that's your religion. But that's your religion. I believe Jesus died on the cross. I'm not coming here talking about that, but since you're talking about religion, I will talk about it. And he died for our sins. And everyone's a sinner, no one's perfect. We've had racism, but we've progressed as a nation, as a state, as high schools, and I'm sick and tired of being called a racist and making it an issue as if we have an opioid crisis in Ohio, not a racism crisis. So please quit calling me a racist and a bully. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before, I just want to clarify towards the board that my point in talking about my faith is to point out the fact that that's what keeps me strong, and that maybe that's something that could help other people who are feeling bullied. As a senior in high school, I've dealt with the experience of high school. Not that I've been bullied all my years of school, obviously. But my point is that I don't want it to affect me because I have my faith. And you can't, like he said before, you can't control how bullies are. You can't change them. No teacher can do that. Maybe a really good counselor can, but it's not common for bullies to just automatically change. So we should encourage children in our schools, teachers should, to encourage their students to have more courage in themselves and to not care what other people say about them or bully them. If it's harassment, if it's physical harassment, or violent verbal harassment, yeah, that's an issue and it needs to be addressed, and then students should have consequences for it. But it's also a tricky subject with evidence and things like that. But I don't think religion should be put in our schools, because it's a public school. I don't think it should be put on me just like it shouldn't be put on anyone else, because it's my faith, it's my personal faith at home and outside of school. I don't put it on any students who have a different opinion. It's a public school, you're meant for education, and none of my conservative people over here who have shared have said that they think it should be put in our schools. So some people are saying that, and it's not true. I'm not a parent, but obviously, none of the parents here want their religions pushed onto their students, because it's not a private school, it's a public school. So I encourage those of you who are lost, the board, like my faith is what's keeping me going, and my family and everyone I know who is in church, it keeps them going, and it doesn't, they don't get bothered by the little things that they experience in high school while they're there during the day, and let it affect them to where they feel suicidal, because they have a faith that keeps them sturdy, and they know where they can go and who can help them out in their time of struggle. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
Park Drive Mentor.
Alexa, can I get your last name one more time? Sorry.
Oh, Friel, F-R-I-E-L.
Thank you.
I wasn't going to say anything. I actually had never been to a school board meeting, but with everything going on, I felt like it was very important to come. So I wrote something out because I didn't want to go on a tangent. But I just wanted to say something really quick to hopefully open up the discussion between all of us. I feel like I'm here and we're sitting on different sides and it's weird. I just feel like this is not how a school system should be. This is not how a community should be. And shame on all of us as parents. I mean, our children go here. And we can't even have any kind of ground. But it's very clear that everything being said tonight can obviously be traced back to our political divides, and it's really sad. It's as if we're divorced parents and only our children are suffering. I wanted to just say my little tidbit. I personally know a child who for about 2 to 3 years of their life thought that they were the opposite gender. Fast forward a few years, they no longer think that way, probably because they were a child, and I know every situation is different, so I'm not discrediting any person, any child. But can you imagine if those parents put that child on hormone blockers or forced the school to come up with some kind of plan? I think it's very hard for you guys as educators and as board members to, I mean, what are you going to do? I think a lot of the stuff starts in the home. I think it comes back to us as parents. I think we need to do a better job. It's our job, and it's not the school's job, just as someone else had said before, a couple of people. This is obviously a very specific case, like I said, but the bottom line is that these social issues are the jobs of parents and not educators. I would also like to say that I actually pulled my children out of winter schools, and I put them into private education, which I know a lot of people keep saying, just pull your kids out, put them in private schools. Not everybody can do that. It is incredibly expensive, and there are times when I wish that my children did go to public schools because it would save me and my husband so much money. So for everyone that has come up here and just said, you know, pull your kids out, simple solution, put them in Catholic schools, put them wherever, homeschool your kids, quit your job. It's just not that simple, but I do think that the public education should be that simple, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you.